is Carrie.
Looks like Americans shopped till they dropped. Retailers say it's one of the best holiday shopping seasons in years. Good evening, I'm Paul Kangas in Miami.
And I'm Susie Garib on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I'll be here all week as we close out the century. And what a cliffhanger day of trading here today. The Dow lost about 14 points, but the NASDAQ squeaked to a new record. Then it's been a century of challenge, courage, and celebration. We take a very special look back at the last 100 years.
Nightly Business Report is brought to you by Compaq, makers of compact non-stop e-business solutions for companies who know that the online world never stops, so their information systems can't stop either. Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton and Mutual Series, investment products distributed by investment professionals. The financial consultants of A.G. Edwards, committed to making investors comfortable with their investments, with their futures. A.G. Edwards, be comfortable. And is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company, providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news.
Good evening, everyone. A suspenseful day of trading here at the New York Stock Exchange. Stocks moved in and out of record territory right up to the last minute of trading. By the closing bell, the Dow slipped 14 points, but the NASDAQ posted its 59th record for the year. Investors were buying retail stocks on news that holiday sales were the strongest in years. Erica Miller reports.
If you got more than you asked for this holiday season, you are not alone. Many retailers were delighted by stronger than expected sales.
When the numbers are all added up, we think it will have been a record Christmas in terms of sales, and we think it'll be a record Christmas as far as retailer profits.
The official data won't be out until early January, but the National Retail Federation predicts holiday sales will total about $184 billion. That would be a 6.5% increase from last year, and one of the best showings in years. Some analysts are forecasting gains as high as 8%, but others say this year will be on par with last, up 5%. A strong economy is getting most of the credit. Plus, the stock market has been hovering at record levels, which makes people feel wealthier. However, analyst Linda Christensen recently downgraded most of the retail stocks she covers on concerns about a slowing economy.
I'm very cautious on the group going into 2000. I think retail sales will slow, certainly into the beginning of the year and extending right into the summer of 2000.
But others see a good buying opportunity.
Companies that we have rated as buys, such as Federated, Dayton Hudson, Nordstrom, we think all have the capability to show continued profit margin improvement as we go into the new year.
Internet retailing got a lot of media attention this holiday season, but it's still a small piece of the pie. Analysts say online buying will make up only about 1 or 2% of total holiday sales. Erica Miller, Nightly Business Report, New York.
Stocks on Wall Street open on a mixed note today as the blue chip Dow Industrial Average extended last Thursday's hefty 202-point advance into record high ground, while the NASDAQ market edged lower on moderate profit-taking in the high-tech sector. At 10 a.m., the Dow posted a 39.25-point gain. The NASDAQ index was down 18 points. The split between the blue chips and the recent high flyers continued to widen for the rest of the morning in the absence of any major outside news to influence traders. At noontime, the industrial average was up over 62.5 points at the 11,469 level, while the NASDAQ index posted a 42-point deficit. A firm bond market kept stocks fairly buoyant in afternoon trading, but the gap between the blue chips and the technology group narrowed significantly late in the session. The Dow Industrial Average, as a matter of fact, went on to fall to a closing loss of 14.68, putting it at 11,391.08. In today's 94.5-point trading range, the industrial average settled about 10.5 points up from the worst level of the session. The NASDAQ Composite edged up 5.94, came in with a gain, and that was its 59th record of the year at 3975.38. In its 99.5-point range, the Composite settled 73 points above its worst level of the day. Very nice comeback. Big board volume slowing down, as it probably will all week, and about 80 million more shares of down volume than up volume. Dow Transport's up nearly 40 points. The utilities up 1 1/3. The closing tick, however, slightly bearish at minus 503. Standard & Poor's 500 fell exactly 1.25 points, nearly a 1.5 point gain to the 100 to a record high. Mid-cap 400 down over 3 points. Bridge Futures Price Index fell 0.62. New York Stock Exchange Composite off 1.82, a fractional loss in the Value Line Index. Russell 2000 small cap up just over 2 points, and the Wilshire 5000 dropping about 26.25 points. With yields ranging near 2-year highs, bargain hunters gave the bond market a little boost today, although trading was so thin that analysts attached little significance to the upturn, especially since there was really no fundamental news behind the buying. Tax-free and corporate issues ended with little change, while treasuries were mostly higher. We see the 5-year notes up 2 seconds. The 10-year notes rising 3 seconds, and then a little loss of 3 seconds in the bellwether 30-year bond, but a gain of nearly 1.25 points in the Lehman Brothers long-term bond index. I'll be back shortly to show you where the action was on Wall Street today. Susie?
Well, Paul, 1999 isn't over yet, but traders and investors are already looking ahead to the new year. And as Stephanie Woods reports, many experts are predicting the U.S. economy is on course for a strong 2000.
There are concerns about a stock market bubble, higher interest rates, consumer spending continuing. Economists say don't worry. 2000 has the makings of a good year for growth.
A big increase in business spending, some increase in consumer spending, but the rate of increase almost has to be less than this year. I mean, this year is just an absolute barn burner from people who sell things to consumers.
Most economists predict between 3.5% and 4% growth, just slightly lower than this year's 4.2% pace. It was a record year for home builders and automakers. Analysts say higher interest rates will cool those sectors slightly, but economic growth should pick up in Asia.
Japan is getting its banking system in order, surely but slowly. Japan is continuing to spend lots of government money to prime the pump. So I think they'll continue to pick up, not very fast, not very impressively, but still be a positive rather than negative force for the overall Asian recovery and for the world economy as a whole.
Growth in Europe should be positive for the euro. The currency dropped 20% due to a slowdown in Europe's economy at the same time the U.S. was rapidly growing.
As the Europeans become more expert at managing their new currency and speaking with a single voice from their European Central Bank, I think a lot of investors around the world will start to move into the euro. So I can see it rising back to its initial level, maybe even more, during the course of 2000.
Analysts say even if the high-flying tech stocks make a sudden landing, it won't crash the economy. And any real impact would likely take until 2001 to be felt. Stephanie Woods, Nightly Business Report, Washington.
Actually, for most of the 20th century, America's economic system has been the envy of the world. This week, we'll look back at this remarkable century. In a special series of reports and interviews, we'll report on 100 years of massive changes in technology, the financial markets, social trends, and politics. And that's where we begin tonight. In Countdown to Business 2000, Darren Gersh takes us through some pivotal moments in the past century when the course of history was changed forever.
America began the century with a burst of energy, personified by its young president, Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt busted trusts and forged the early links of a social safety net. The nation was flexing its muscles, building the Panama Canal, expanding its influence around the globe. It was a time of high hopes, with many parallels to the world today.
It's as though where we are now is connected to the beginning of the century, because we began the century as a time of great optimism, of growth, of expanding world trade, and people had very high hopes. And then it was all broken in August 1914 with the beginning of the First World War.
Eventually, World War would transform the United States into an economic and political superpower.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
As hot war gave way to cold, the U.S. economic mobilization continued. The military-industrial complex was born. Competition with the Soviets was also used to justify spending on highways and other social programs.
So the Cold War meant that there was a social consensus behind a certain kind of public spending that ended up being good for business, for R&D, and for education.
I think a number of us in the world believed that the Soviet Union was not a viable system finally.
Suddenly, the Cold War was over. Pieces of the Berlin Wall like these were shipped to museums, and governments slowly began to re-embrace free markets. As the century turns, it is again a time of global trade, technological change, and expanding U.S. influence. Hopes are high. The early promise of the century has been reborn. Darren Gersh, Nightly Business Report, Washington.
Recently, I talked with Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers about the emergence of the American economy in this past century. We'll bring you that interview in just a few minutes.
Looked for a while like the blue chips were going to pull off a coup over the high-tech stocks, but late in the session they faded, down 14.68 in the Dow, and the broader market definitely lower. 17 stocks off for every 13 higher, only 86 new highs for the year, 340 new lows. America Online topped the active list on 14.25 million shares, losing 2 points. AT&T down 2 1/8 as it begins its legal challenge of the FCC's decision to allow Bell Atlantic into the long-distance market. American Home Products dropped a point. Lucent Technologies dropping just over 2. Compaq Computer off 1 1/4, fifth in volume. And then Tyco International continuing to rebound, up 2 3/8. Philip Morris down 1 1/8. The Florida Supreme Court today left open the door for a huge lump sum award in an ongoing court case over damages caused by smoking. Estimates of that award have run as high as $300 billion. Bell Atlantic itself down 3 5/16. Citigroup off 1 5/8. And then Disney, 10th in volume, was up 3/16. Kyocera was up 23 3/4 points. That stock has been strong ever since last Thursday. It announced it'll buy Qualcomm's mobile phone manufacturing division. Newbridge Network up 2 11/16. Soundview Financial Brokerage thinks the company still has potential suitors out there, even after Tellabs backed away from a possible merger. Nortel Networks up over 10 points. Standard & Poor's has changed the stock category that it's in from value to growth, and that causes a lot of the institutions to get in or out of the stock. Looked like more got in today. Charles Schwab up 1 1/8 after the Hambrook & Quist brokerage repeated a buy. Seagate Technology moving up 1 11/16. Seagate helped along by Morgan Stanley, which upgraded it from neutral to outperform. And then Sony up 18 5/16 after announcing a 2-for-1 stock split. Vimple Communications, the big Russian cell phone operator, up 6 13/16. The company says its capitalization is now over $1 billion and still growing rapidly. Mascotech up 2.5 points. The company told us that late last Thursday, Alex Brown Brokerage repeated a buy and has a price target for the stock of $24 a share. CGI Group, a Canadian consulting firm, up 7 7/8. Last Tuesday, that stock was $30 a share when it set a 2-for-1 stock split and been running higher ever since. Consolidated Stores up 1 11/16, benefiting from positive comments in the new issue of Barron's Financial Magazine. Spartech up 2 1/4. The company's going to acquire high-performance plastics from Uniroyal Technology for $217 million. One of the few big percentage losers, Birmingham Steel, off 1 5/8 after the company said it sees continuing losses in its special bar quality operations. NASDAQ trading another record high, the 59th, as you heard, of the year, up nearly 6. Trading volume down 171 million shares from Thursday, though. 17 stocks up for about every 24 down. Yahoo topped the active list, up 12 3/8, and then Qualcomm at another record high with that gain of nearly 47. Commerce One up over 57 points after Prudential Securities repeated a strong buy. Microsoft up 1 11/16. JDS Uniphase gained over 37 points, 5th in volume. CMGI rising 7 5/16. Amazon.com down almost 9. However, Cisco gained 3/4. Intel moving up nearly 2, and Dell Computer was off 3/8, 10th in NASDAQ dollar volume. Teagle was up 2 and 15/32. It's in the integrated circuit business, and CBS Market Watch quoted a fund manager who sees the stock going to $20 a share sometime next year. Retech up 30 1/8 after First Boston Brokerage began covering the stock with a strong buy. IIS, Intelligent Information Systems, down nearly 2 points. The company's decided not to complete the spinoff of its Santur investment unit. The American Exchange Index down 2.80. Brilliant Digital Entertainment rising 1 7/8, huge percentage gain after it got positive mention in the latest issue of Red Herring Technology magazine. And AudioVox down 2 7/8. No news on the wires. Company didn't return our calls, but it could be some simple profit taking. Earlier in this year, the stock was as low as around $6 a share. Finally, the index shares all on the downside, but just fractionally. And that's the Wall Street wrap-up. Susie?
Paul, back now to our special series on the 20th century. One reason that people call this the American century is because of the triumph of capitalism. I talked about this with the man who is now at the center of the world's free markets. In tonight's Countdown to Business 2000, my interview with Treasury Secretary Lawrence Summers. I began by asking him what economic lessons we have learned in this century.
I think the most important lesson we've learned is the power of markets. The power of competitive markets supported by a strong legal framework to harness the energies and creativity of the people who trade, sell, and work in them. The power of markets is the most important lesson of the 20th century. The next most important lesson is the power of technology, science, and innovation to create vast changes in people's lives.
A lot of people would say that we are in a new economy. It's performing so much better now. Living standards have improved 7-fold since the beginning of the century. How do you rate these last 2 decades compared to the economic progress of the last 100 years?
The 1990s have been as good a decade as any decade in this century for the American economy. You know, for 4 decades after the Second World War, from 1950 until 1990, the whole dominant story of the industrialized countries was convergence as other nations moved towards catching up with the United States. In the last decade, the story has been of a decade where the United States started ahead and actually pulled away. So I feel very good about where the economy is, though I always worry about the dangers of our becoming overconfident, too proud of ourselves, complacent, imprudent in our lending and borrowing decisions.
Certainly, one of the most important parts of post-war prosperity has been the opening up of free trade. And it's done a lot of good, has come out of this, but also there have been some shocks to the system, like the Asia financial crisis. Do you think that globalization has made the U.S. vulnerable?
The Asian financial crisis was a profound wake-up call for us. But I would say to you that the idea of globalization, the idea of international integration, is in many ways like the invention of the jet plane. It works better, it gets you there faster, it is safer, it is more comfortable. But to be sure, the accidents are more spectacular. And what that points up is not that we should resist change any more than the jet plane should have been eliminated after the first accident. But just as we needed new systems of air traffic control, we needed longer runways, we needed better training of pilots. As planes became more powerful, so too there are a set of steps we need to take to assure that globalization is managed to benefit everyone.
Mr. Secretary, many people say that this has been the American century and that the 90s were the American decade. Can we top this in the next 100 years?
It's the greatness of America that its best days are always in the future. My hope would be that when people look back in 2100 at this next century, they will see it as a century in which the United States was a powerful force for widening prosperity, both within our country and around the world, because that will ultimately make a safer, more prosperous world with more opportunities for all of us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you very much. I hope that's helpful.
My complete interview with Summers is part of NBR's hour-long special, The 20th Century and Beyond. So check the listings of your local public television station for the date and time.
tomorrow, he's been a visionary in the computer industry. We'll talk with Andy Grove about what's ahead.
The NASDAQ stock market has frozen changes in its stock issues from today through January 3rd, 2000 to avoid any Y2K problems. And as Scott Gervey reports in his Y2K update, there are still some last-minute things you can do.
In just a few more days, you will not have to hear any more about the Y2K computer bug. But for today, it pays to review some advice. The American Bankers Association has a few suggestions to safeguard your money. Keep copies of your bank statement on hand. Check them before and after the new year. Report any mistakes to your bank quickly. The Securities Industry Association says what goes for your bank records goes for your brokerage records. Keep them handy and check them. Many brokerage offices plan to be open over the weekend in case you want to stop in and check your accounts. Don't withdraw any more cash than you would for any other holiday weekend. And if you find your local ATM machine out of service, don't panic. Between 1% and 2% are out of service at any time under normal circumstances. Stockpiling groceries is not recommended. Stick to your usual holiday weekend shopping routine. As to filling up your gas tank, the head of President Clinton's Y2K team warns the lines you see may be your fault.
I think it's an important thing for the public to know, and that is if you see a long line on Thursday or Friday of people saying, hey, I think I'll get gas for the weekend, we're not going to run out of gas, and it's probably the best thing to do is come back when the lines go down the next day, because there's plenty of gas in the system.
For many other companies, the cost of staying open over the weekend will be added to the billions that have been spent fixing computer systems. Citigroup says it spent $950 million, AT&T $700 million, GE and General Motors $650 million each. According to SEC filings, the top 330 companies spent $23 billion to fix Y2K bugs. Overall, the cost of repairing Y2K problems is said to be $600 billion. Scott Gervey, Nightly Business Report, New York.
Recapping today's market action, the Dow lost about 14 points, but the NASDAQ index gained about 6 for its 59th record this year. And please join us at our worldwide website, NBR.com, or on America Online, keyword NBR.
And finally tonight, New Year's Eve is just days away. This year, New York City will celebrate the big event with a new Millennium Ball on top of the famous flagpole in Times Square. There you see it. The ball is translucent, 6 feet wide, weighing more than 1,000 pounds. It's covered with 504 Waterford crystal triangles and is lit by 600 multicolored light bulbs and 90 mirrors. They're all computer controlled. And Paul, its maker says it'll be, quote, an eye-dazzling, state-of-the-art light show, which I guess is just perfect for New Year's Eve 2000.
Yeah, but the morning after, the last thing revelers want to see is a light that bright, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'll be far away from that, probably watching it on television. I guess you will be, too.
Yeah. How's it going there on the floor? It looks nice.
It's not the same without you being here. I remember last January, the two of us reporting from the floor, and I wish you were up here with me. Yes,
and they're always so hospitable.
The New York Stock Exchange and Dick Grasso, the chairman, have been great to all of us. So, and we'll be covering, continuing here all week long. But for now, that's it for Nightly Business Report for this December 27th. I'm Susie Garib. Good night, everyone, and good night to you, Paul.
Good night, Susie. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbyes.
Nightly Business Report is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news. And is made possible by the financial consultants of A.G. Edwards, committed to making investors comfortable with their investments, with their futures. A.G. Edwards, be comfortable. Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton and Mutual Series. Investment products distributed by investment professionals. Compaq, makers of compact non-stop e-business solutions for companies who know that the online world never stops, so their information systems can't stop either. And by the financial support of viewers like you. Whether you're planning to leave property behind or receive it, you need NBR's video, How to Plan Your Estate or Inheritance, winner of the American Bar Association Silver Gavel Award. To order by credit card, call 1-800-535-5864.
Funding for local broadcast of the Nightly Business Report has been provided by viewers like you and by the following.
SAFE Corporation, managing the human and financial cost of workplace injuries. SAFE Corporation, on the job for Oregon.
Copper Mountain Trust, the Northwest's largest independent trust investment and advisory company. The companies of CNF Transportation, Emory Worldwide, Conway Transportation Services, and Menlo Logistics. CNF Transportation, where ideas carry weight.
Hi, I'm Chris Jussel, inviting you to the Antiques Roadshow.
What you have here is all the different bombing runs he went on. He came back alive and he had this jacket to tell the story.
This week, we continue our visit to Phoenix, Arizona.
What are some of the funny things people collect? Would you believe lunchboxes? You did better than buy an IBM.
It's rare that I find them quite like this.
It's the Antiques Roadshow right here on this public television station.
On OPB, tonight at 8.
Next time on Nova, look out.
Jay and I cannot move. We are buried inside the hut.
Researchers risk it all in the backcountry to unlock the deadly secrets of snow. Avalanche.
On OPB, Tuesday at 9.
Western portions of the state tonight, clear with some late night fog and low clouds on the coast. Lows will be in the 20s to near 40. East, expect to see a forecast of low clouds and fog of the Columbia Basin and valleys tonight and tomorrow. Lows will be in the 20s to near 30 with mid-20s and mid-30s and some low 40s for highs tomorrow. West tomorrow, sunny skies after some morning fog and low clouds along the coast.
Peter and Cinda Hoffman have made a significant commitment to the future of Oregon Public Broadcasting. We thank them for bringing